So Hayom Harat Olam, we say this over and over again, especially in the liturgy that's coming up in the next 2 glorious days of major key music, which Jews don't tend to do. Hayom Harat Olam, today is the birthday of the world. This Jewish holiday celebrating our new year is in some ways celebrating the least Jewish, the most universal event in history, right? We don't celebrate on the Jewish Rosh Hashanah, on the Jewish New Year, the creation of the Jewish people, or a historical moment that only we as Jews can claim. We're celebrating the creation of the entire world. We understand that we have a role to play in that. But at essence, Rosh Hashanah is about celebrating the creation of the world itself. To pause, to be aware that the creation of the world is a miracle. We go about our daily lives very busy. We sometimes forget the incredible science that makes things go around and around and around. Not to mention we live in a world which is now full of basic science deniers. So celebrating the birthday of the world and science is something that even the most Orthodox Jews would agree to. Judaism, the most Orthodox Jew, believes in science because we believe that science is a creation of God and that God has created the universe and all of the laws and rules of the universe. And we as human beings get to celebrate that with an understanding we're celebrating the creation of the world itself. Some of you have asked me, and I've been part of a lot of conversations over the time about how I got through this period of COVID, how I was able to lead CBST. There are so many answers to that, but one theological answer is found in the celebration of Rosh Hashanah itself. And some of you have heard me talk about this in the past, and I'm going to refer to it again tonight. Rosh Hashanah is considered the birthday of the world. And according to our tradition, the world itself began at an axis mundi, as it's called in another language, the place from which the creation itself began, the center of the physical and spiritual worlds, is called Even Hashtiyah, the foundation stone. Tradition has it that Even Hashtiyah is on Har HaMoriah, the mount in Jerusalem on which the Dome of the Rock exists. And the Dome of the Rock is called the Dome of the Rock because Muslims also believe that the rock in that dome is the holy rock on which many important things happened for the Muslim tradition and for the Jewish tradition. According to the Mukubalim, the mystics in our tradition, the world was not created, and I'm quoting now, until God took a stone called the Even Hashtiyah, threw it into the depths where it was fixed from above till below, and from it the whole world expanded. It is the center of the world, and it is on this spot that we found the Holy of Holies, the Kadosh HaKadoshim. More about that on Yom Kippur, where the temple, the Jewish temple existed. The Holy of Holies was built on top of the foundation stone itself. And the question becomes for us always is, what is our foundation stone? You might see this as a metaphor, a midrash, that the world has a place on which everything rests. And in our tradition, we call it the Even Hashtiyah, the foundation stone. But a question that Rosh Hashanah asks for us, if the world, the entire existence of the physical and spiritual world hovers on the strength of this stone, we each are asked to ask ourselves the question, what is the stone on which you survive? What is your foundation stone? This is a metaphor I'm talking, okay? You following? Where do you ground yourself from which you're able to go through life? What is the foundation stone that makes you able to withstand the winds of change that are so terrifying, the difficult moments of grief, the horrifying moments of terror and of violence and of fear? In some ways, this midrash of ours has always stood for me as a model of what I need to do in my own life, and ask myself over and over again, what is my foundation stone? How do I stand with any strength, understanding my need for a foundation stone? Parentheses that. In March of 2020, let's go back there for a moment. You remember we had a bar mitzvah in March, Liz Gauss and Lisa Springer's kid. And remember that Friday night in Shabbat, what was the party favor that the Gauss Springer family gave out for that bar mitzvah? It was a little tube of hand sanitizer with a picture of the kid on the tube of hand sanitizer. And we thought it was kind of cute. You know, remember giving announcements at Friday night to use elbows and to wash with hand sanitizer that we set up all over the synagogue. Remember that? Remember that time where we thought, okay, if we just used our elbows and we stopped hugging, it would be okay? And we celebrated a bar mitzvah of one of our beloved kids at CBST with a little party favor, which I still have, by the way, with a little hand sanitizer in it. 1 week later, March 20th of 2020, we were entirely online. 1 week later, we were separated into our houses and our apartments. And I learned a new word that week I had never known before. And that word was Zoom. Zoom to me was that TV show. Remember that Zoom? Or Zoom Golly Golly. I had never heard of the program Zoom. And in fact, in that first Friday night service, I even told you I'd never heard of Zoom before. But can you take yourselves back to that first Friday night service? Jason will help us. This was a look at what Joyce, David Fair, and I were like minutes before the camera went on. If you could watch your screens.
All right, I hope that should take care of it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, if not, it's okay though. Just a little beep.
Joyce, send me do you have your, no, you can't move your cell phone. Well, let's hope it does. Otherwise, people just hear it. I can't. She couldn't send it on the cell phone because she was using the cell phone for her camera. Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, let me know. Joyce, you'll start playing.
Okay.
I'll go live. Whenever you give me the thumbs.
David, just so you know, I think what I'll do is maybe I'll just kind of look straight ahead and I'll look at the camera for a while, and then when I'm kind of finishing up, I'll just look towards the camera. Okay? Just so you know. Okay, so give me a thing, and I'm going to wait a moment before we begin.
I'm going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Jason, I think that's enough. So I look like a deer caught in the headlights. And I had never done this before, so some of you might remember, because some of you called me or texted me or wrote to me, that I thought if I would put my face closer to the camera, you would feel me. Instead, I look like this horror of this face taking up the whole screen. And poor Joyce was playing the piano. We didn't yet learn that a cell phone is really not the best way to go from cell phone to Zoom and sound like anything called music. I recently listened to the whole service. It was humbling. It's amazing any of you stuck with us through that. And it was so sweet because we were trying so hard, but we didn't really know what we were doing. But a person who deserves a huge amount of credit is Jason Zivick, who has been with us Poor Jason had to work with Joyce and me in particular, the two of us, trying to get us to master the technology to be able to lead a service. And of course, I didn't learn much about that in rabbinical school in the 80s when I went to rabbinical school. And you might remember there was that one Friday night service where my screen went blank, because guess what? Turns out Friday nights in a New York City apartment building, that's when everybody's live streaming Netflix. And so I got bumped off. And Jason was the one who was like a first responder, was talking me down from jumping off the bridge. Okay, Rabbi, what you have to do is find the router. Where's the router? I don't know where the router is! Rabbi, you have to find the router and take your computer into the room where the router is. Anyway, Jason was really... Joyce spent hours with Jason recording music to create tracks, because the next stage included tracks and music. But somehow we made that through. And not only could you see what we were like with the terror of trying to figure this out, but 2 years later, so many of you created Mikdash Ma'at, we call it in Judaism, a holy sanctuary at home. So many of you created spaces that every Friday night you would come to, or many Friday nights, or maybe 1 or 2 Friday nights. But you created sacred spaces in your homes, in your apartments, where you would watch the service, either for Friday nights, or for the Pesach Seder, or for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You created beautiful, beautiful sanctuaries. Who could have imagined you had your Sidurim and Machzorim and Pesach plates and beautiful Shabbos Challah covers that maybe you never had before? Harold Levine made a video of the years we were online and asked people to send in photos of their home sanctuaries. So compare that first video with this one.
You turn my morning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sing to you, and it not be stilled.
You turn my morning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sing to you, and it not be still. Oh, God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, take God. Now I sing praises to the Holy One, who lifts me up when I have fallen, and I cry to you to heal me, and you have answered all my prayers. No, I sing praises to the Holy One, who lifts me up when I have fallen, and I cry to you to heal me, and you have answered all my prayers. Oh, God, my God, forever I will thank you.
We did more than make lemonade out of lemons. We created sacred space. We really, in many ways, and not perfectly, created real deep connections. Remember those times of the 7 p.m. shouting and banging our dishes and things out the window, disinfecting groceries and wearing gloves, exhausting dogs with walks they were sick of? Folks went through these days very differently. For some, it was real torture. It was a nightmare that has had lasting mental trauma. And it's not over. For some people, it was a relief not having to see people all the time. For those with little children, it was a special hell. For those with school-age children and everyone on Zoom learning how to do it, it was also a special hell. And for those stuck at home with sullen teenage children, well, it was hard for people who were single and isolated, and it was hard for couples to be together 24/7. It was hard for those who went through mourning and death and were so isolated in that time. It was leading and living through AIDS, which gave me the foundation stone to know what to do through this plague. It was having been rabbi at CBST those years in the early 90s that taught me how to pivot so quickly and to know what we at CBST needed to do. Living through AIDS, losing so many people, watching the horror that we as a community went through, but also seeing the incredible strength, helped build a foundation stone for me personally and for me as a rabbi, so that when faced with this situation, I knew exactly what needed to be done. It wasn't perfect what we did at CBST, and we heard last year from the Aleinu, our 20s and 30s group at CBST, that they felt failed by CBST during COVID. They felt abandoned and unattended to, and for that I ask for forgiveness, and I deeply apologize. And I pray and hope that we will do better in the coming year. What have you lost, and what have you gained during the pandemic? This is a question we all have to ask ourselves. What did we lose, and what did we gain? Bimkom she'eno ish hishtadel ish, our tradition tells us. In a place where nobody's acting like a mensch, in a place where nobody is being a human being, it is then your job to be a human being, to be a mensch, to act appropriately. It's easy to act appropriately and to be compassionate and full of devotion to justice if everybody around you is. It's harder to do it when the world is absent so much compassion, absent so much justice, absent so much mercy, absent so much deep caring. This, I think, we who are older learned during AIDS. And it's a gift we have to offer a younger generation. That bimkom she'eno ish hishtadel ish, even as the world crumbles, that's the moment that we're called upon to act even more like the human beings we know we can be. Even as we watch around us cruelty and meanness become the language and the culture of not only this country, but of the world, this is precisely the moment that we're called upon to be the human beings God has created us to be. If you don't believe in God, translate that into universe or whatever inspires you. So here we are at this moment of facing the world, not knowing what next week will bring. I said in my Drashah on that first service on March 20th, 2020, a week ago, we could not have imagined that this Friday night we would be online in this kind of a way. That's a gift to remind us we do not know what a week from now will bring. Uncertainty is a part of the human experience. We could live in denial. We could pretend we know what's going to happen, but we don't. But we have to embrace it, standing firm on the foundation stones that we create. The foundation stones of commitment to our peoples, and there are many different peoples, a commitment to justice, a commitment to a belief that we can always grow, that this year might be the year 57, 83 might be your year. It might be the year you end up really going to the gym. It might be the year you really end up making up with the person from 20 years ago with whom you still have conflict. It might be the year that you overcome a certain fear that you have on your bucket list. It might be the year you reach out way beyond what you thought was a comfort zone. This might be your year. Rosh Hashanah, as Rabbi Werber so beautifully described, is a liminal moment. It's a moment of transition, a moment of dreaming. What is your foundation stone? That's the first place to start. How do you build something strong enough to support you as you move through the winds, the lives, the conflict? I don't need to make a list of the disasters happening in the world right now. What will you do? One of the places I find a foundation stone are the friends that our immigration clinic are helping. We cannot save everything in the universe and every person that needs saving, but one person at a time, one small act of kindness and of justice. CBST's immigration clinic has in 3 years successfully helped 24 people get asylum status, that they never have to go back. Most of them based on fear of persecution for being LGBT or HIV positive. That doesn't solve every problem in the world, but believe me, for those 24 people, their lives are completely changed. I read to you from a Peruvian woman who wrote to CBST after getting asylum status. I left Peru with fears, but with conviction. My story is the story of thousands of trans women in the world. When I went to you, CBST, I faced my sad memories, which I tried for many years not to remember in order to continue living. Seeing your love and dedication, CBST, to helping others committed me even more to my dreams and missions. I have within me a deep sense of satisfaction. The merit is not mine. It is yours. Sometimes when I miss those Wednesday nights where I found those wonderful human beings that you are, I give the first place in my heart to love that is shown in 1,000 ways. And you did it for me every Wednesday. And how many more days without knowing it? I am committed now to my pure essence, to give from now on my best years to this great country which has welcomed me. Thanks to you. I also apologize for not being able to communicate in English, although we had an angel from CBST who translated everything for us. My loyalty and gratitude to each of you, and do not lose heart in your desire to always return smiles and peace to vulnerable human beings. Every single person who is a member of CBST is responsible for that. Every single one of you here. So, let's not despair. The world is on fire, everything's crumbling. We can list those things. But each of us has the power. Each of us. Nobody could do everything, but each of us can do something. And the combined collective of being part of a community that's dedicated to making small steps better in the real world brings God's presence into this earth. I read from Howard Zinn, "Why should we have hope as we try to build a beautiful world?" Why should we feel hope? Revolutionary change does not come as one cataclysmic moment. Beware of such moments, in fact, but as an endless succession of surprises, moving zigzag toward a more decent society. We don't have to engage in grand, heroic actions to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human society is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, and kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for a grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents. And to live now, as we think human beings should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, that is a marvelous victory. Bimkom she'eno ish, in a place where people are not acting like human beings. That is the moment we must act. Out of the ruins and the rubble, out of the smoke and out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale, thin ray reaching the day. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Not a city of angels, but we can build a city of hope. We may not, each of us, reach the ending, but we can start, slowly but surely mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now we start learning how. When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can give up bitter and battered, or you can slowly start to build. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Shana Tova, a sweet and happy New Year.